Hello, Paul again with another Caretaker Chronicle, this time for Atlas and Celeste. Working with larger canines, we are constantly reminded of the possibility that they could inflict harm. At any time, any moment, a bite could occur if we are not diligent enough in our duties, or misread a situation. This is always in the back of our mind when working with these animals, especially those that come to us with a bite history. However, every bite has a story behind it. There's always a reason for a behavior, but even a single bite can mark an animal's dangers for life. Atlas is an excellent example of that. So Atlas and Celeste were originally from a wolf dog sanctuary situated in Oklahoma that was partnered with another local sanctuary to provide care and enclosure space for their rescues. Unfortunately, one day, Atlas attempted to push past one of his caretakers to escape the enclosure, and to prevent him from getting out, the caretaker grabbed his collar to pull him back. To no surprise, Atlas responded with a bite, and following a second similar occurrence, the decision was made to relocate Atlas and his companion Celeste to a new sanctuary. Now, I cannot emphasize enough how wonderful the founders of this fellow wolf dog sanctuary are. Without a property of their own, they were forced to find placement for Atlas and Celeste with an outside organization. Thus began their series of calls to other sanctuaries around the US until Wild Spirit answered the phone. Though we were over capacity at the time, we still hit the road to retrieve our two new additions to the Wild Spirit family as soon as we had space available. I, myself, was fortunate enough to join the rescue and drive to Oklahoma to retrieve them. Now, drive's a generous word. I'm not actually a driving human, but I do my best. Hearing Atlas's story, I was not quite sure what to expect when we rolled into Oklahoma. That being said, what I saw when we arrived at the sanctuary took me by surprise. There was no vicious animal barking and growling at all who passed by, no stiff and uncomfortable wolf dog or an insecure and defensive critter. There's just a happy, wiggly boy. What's more, the sanctuary's founders readily invited us into Atlas's enclosure to say hello, treats in hand and palms extended. The chipper fellow that he was, he relished in our pets and even insisted on giving us all kisses before we left for the night to prepare for our travels in the morning. And when it came time to transport him to our rescue vehicle, his primary caretaker was able to leash him up and walk him straight in without any hassle. Ironically, Celeste was the real troublemaker. She required a mini capture to get her loaded with her companion. Atlas was not even the bad boy. That darling Celeste. This precious gal was entirely hands-off at her past facility, and though she had an enclosure to call home, there was not much space for her to roam or even places to hide. She was an anxious girl who paced and cowered when we came near, especially with us new humans present. But everything changed with these two remarkable souls when they arrived at Wild Spirit Wolf Sanctuary. The moment they stepped on our property, I claimed them as my primaries, one of the enclosures that I would work with on a daily basis. I had already seen Atlas's potential, and knew Celeste could make incredible strides in the right circumstances. So all that was left was to build a relationship that would allow them both to thrive. Now, Atlas turned out to be the easy task, funny enough. He warmed up to me instantly, gracing me with affection every time I entered his enclosure. In due time, this darling boy that had tormented his previous caretakers even let me hand sedate him at our last vet visit for his own well-being. Naturally, we had to do our vet inspection of him. Well, then again, let is a strong word. He was awfully offended. But still, after the deed was done, he nestled into my lap and fell asleep on me after a short little pouting fest. Celeste, on the other hand, has taken a lot of work and patience. Atlas definitely made it easier to form a relationship with her. He definitely bridged that gap by showing her I was trustworthy, but she had many doubts to overcome. I've always believed in utilizing two-way communication to work with any species. That is to say, instead of me communicating my intent to the animal and having them work around my needs, I also actively read and listen to the cues of the animals to respect their boundaries and their needs in equal parts. Much like a dance, we follow each other's rhythm, guide one another, and go with the flow. Every animal's rhythm is a little bit different, and sometimes you just need to find the right song. For Celeste, the way into her heart was scent. It feels like a no-brainer, right? A canine who enjoys smells. Yeah, it's a crazy take, I know. So I started by spreading my scent in the enclosure more thoroughly. Brushing my hands through the weeds, spitting on the ground, rubbing my scents on treats that I scattered, and soon I watched her boundaries shift from my from when she was following my scent trails from 6 feet to 5, 4, 3, and eventually 1. I actually still remember the day Celeste first approached to sniff my hand. We developed somewhat of an introduction ritual when I first entered. I saved her enclosure for last to ensure that my bucket, used to clean the other enclosures, had a plethora of scents. She could smell anything she wanted. Basically, I brought her a massive offering. And when I entered, I always popped the bucket down for her to explore, as Atlas would bathe me in affection. It was also our ritual. And every time I moved that bucket a little bit closer to myself until, sure enough, her nose trailed from the bucket over to me. Unlike most nervous animals who chose to come from behind, she confidently perused my shirt with her sniffer, ending at the hand I offered her before sauntering away to fence fight with her rival Kiska. And step by step, our relationship grew to petting terms, one of the highest honors I've been given in my decade-plus long career in animal care, because she was such an anxious animal and still is, but to be given that trust was really, really magical. No, that's an example of how Atlas and Celeste's story is a reminder to me of how our prejudices can limit not only those we apply them to, but also ourselves. An animal with a bite history can be an affectionate teddy bear. A hands-off animal can learn to trust again. All it really takes is time, understanding, and love. Sometimes all anyone ever needs is another chance. So, be willing to do that. Paul out!
The good, loyal frog husband you are.